Hey everyone, it's Dr. Romani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism. So let's talk a little bit about narcissistic people and pseudo spirituality, shall we? If you're new to this channel, also please hit that subscribe button because it's a great community and you're learning all kinds of stuff about narcissism here. Now, one way that narcissistic folks gaslight the unfortunate folks who have to interact with them is by pretending to be spiritually evolved. Drop in the comments if any of you have run into these spiritually evolved narcissists. They take a few meditation retreats, fly down to Central America, do a whole ayahuasca thing, find a guru to enable them, get into the best branded yoga class, read some Vedantic texts, dangle a few crystals in their house, and talk more slowly and quietly. And voila, they're evolved, and you are not. So when you are just trying to live your life in the real world with all of its demands and rules and ask for anything, or heaven forbid you raise your voice, you get them to say, "Shall we breathe? I learned in my retreat it could be your chakras. And come, join me, and let's have some matcha." Oh no. Mm-mm. Let's talk about spiritual bypassing and where it meets enabling. My friend Janata, hey Janata, talked to me about this at dinner the other night, and I grabbed my little notepad and wrote it down right away. She was talking about this idea of people who performatively engage in the spiritual plane. They try to nail down the guru and ask for the spirituality intensive, right? And assume that enough time with the right shamanic healer or the right yoga retreat, and then they get to be fast tracked to spiritual evolution. Then they either post about their spiritual growth on social media or they lord it over other people. You aren't evolved, but I am, because I didn't speak or look at my phone for a whole week and I ate lentils. But not so fast, folks. Not sure that's spiritual evolution. Spiritual bypassing is a term that was developed by someone named John Wellwood, a therapist. And he talked about it as a defensive maneuver, a person using spiritual concepts to actually avoid facing their real psychological issues. Interestingly, spiritual bypassers are the ones who are quite self righteous about their entitlement and often bring toxic positivity. But they are not dealing with the actual mess that is their psyche. And I think you know where I'm going with this. When even spiritual growth becomes a competitive and self righteous endeavor, that's not good. And this idea of spiritual bypassing really dovetails with narcissism because there we also see the avoidance of doing the real psychological work, engaging in real vulnerability, being self aware of how they're affecting other people, and using the superficial spiritual posturing as a way of actually denying core emotional issues. Now, what I'm about to say, I may be portraying a caricature, but the spiritual posturing that seems to be more of like a narcissistic trope of late is bothering me. Not because I care that the narcissists are doing it. Frankly, when they are away at their retreat, at least they may not be bothering you. So that's the bright side. But their spiritual pseudo journeys become one more mechanism of abuse. Like they need one more, but it does. Now, I was watching an episode of Billions recently, almost done. Fabulous. It's absolutely a five-star narcissism show where every single character has some level of narcissistic characteristics, except maybe the kindly pizza man. That's it. And they really nailed all of these sorts of narcissistic tropes. In one of these storylines, the main billionaire and his top drawer enabler go to the shaman led sweat lodge type retreat in the mountains somewhere, and they're there so long, they grow the beards, they ride the motorcycles, literally the whole caricature, and then they return to their real life just as abusive, manipulative, and vindictive as ever. And then they try to monetize the shamanic connection only to be outplayed by another more clever and spiritually evolved billionaire. Very well told story. But this pseudo spiritual stuff that this show is kind of poking fun at, it actually gets enabled. In some ways, by the dime store gurus who are willing to don robes and sit in lotus position and dispense wisdom over one weekend. And then people that assume it's sort of a one and done and they are evolved. It doesn't quite work like that. But so many people will give narcissistic folks a free pass on the assumption that somehow they are better now because they are meditating or mindfulnessing or breathing or doing some psychedelic journey in the desert or the rainforest, so everything's fine now. Honestly, to the narcissistic folks out there, when it comes to your retreats and your daily practices, you do you. Someone's making money, and maybe, just maybe, you actually are learning something. Everything that's shared in those places isn't bad, it's just not a fix. However, using this spiritual stuff as one more tool to invalidate people, that's not okay. And it means that whatever you are doing isn't working if you're still doing that. And where it really aggravates me is the toll it takes on survivors, because ultimately that is my concern. Many, many people have reached out to me about narcissistic abuse experience because of allegedly spiritually evolved narcissistic parents, religious leaders, clergy, members of spiritual communities, or in adulthood by these spiritually enhanced partners who use their so called spirituality to judge and criticize everyone around them. The other danger is the idea that doing this spiritual work magically can address patterns such as narcissism. Here's what I'll say: done correctly, regularly, and accompanied by one hell of a good therapist for long term therapy, some of this spiritually oriented stuff that actually focuses on breathing, true mindfulness, meditative practice, it all has a chance, but not as an enabling the universe loves you so much that the universe forgives you no matter what you do, so you can go out there and do what you want because the universe will keep forgiving you. No, the universe may keep forgiving them, but I don't think that the real people that they hurt always should or will. And I have seen many a narcissistic person jump around like Rumpelstiltskin saying, "Why won't everyone stop being mad at me? I meditated. I'm spiritual. I faced my hallucinatory demons." No, that's not how it works. A truly spiritually aware person, whatever that is deeply self aware, not only of themselves, but of how they affect other people. And so they catch themselves before they offend someone. Truly spiritually aware people do not proselytize and judge other people. Truly spiritually aware people do not manipulate other people or judge them from a self righteous positivity pedestal. A truly spiritually aware person, whatever that is deeply self aware, not only of themselves, but of how they affect other people, and so they catch themselves before they offend. Truly spiritually aware people do not judge other people. Truly spiritually aware people do not manipulate other people or judge them from a self righteous positivity pedestal. Truly spiritually aware people do not feel entitled to forgiveness. But this idea of spiritual bypassing, mixed up with enabling, in a world full of folks looking for shortcuts and get out of jail free cards, where spirituality is now a brand and becomes one more bit of hip cred to put out there. All of this seems like a mess where narcissism is concerned. Narcissistic people are clever enough to know what sells, and the play of mistreating lots of people and then finding love, light, and some crystal beacon feels like one more manipulation. Be very careful when narcissistic folks come at you with their belief that they are changed after one weekend in the desert. If it was that simple, I would be out of a job and narcissism wouldn't be an issue. And I really wish it was the case, but it's not, right? In our zeal to constantly enable the narcissist, we want there to be a quick fix, a few mantras, and a hallucinatory journey that sets it all right. Folks, it doesn't work that way. And then we have to praise them for meditating and then have to endure their criticism. It just feels like the same invalidation and manipulation as always, but now maybe it just smells like incense. The hard work isn't the chanting and the breathing. It's the willingness to do the deep dive, to excavate our demons and our anxieties, to be vulnerable in the face of them and integrate them instead of running away from them, and to get up and fight the good fight every day with empathy, real empathy. And once someone finds a quickie spiritual route to that, drop me a line because I'm going to have to find a new job at that point. So beware of that. And I'm hearing more and more about it, hearing from people over and over again who are talking about not only narcissistic abuse in the religious realm, but also in the spiritual realm. And it's not okay because in some ways it's like a sneak attack because people think, oh, it's a spiritual space. These people want me to heal and they have my best interests at heart. So for somebody to take advantage of the power that that kind of space grants them is a problem for me, number one. But number two, for the narcissistic people who think that they can just say, look at me, I meditate, I'm evolved. And then they continue to invalidate people and say, that's okay, like you're missing it because I do meditate. That does not work for me. That you have to take ownership of yourself first. Have that genuine empathy, not invalidate other people. There are no magical solutions to this. If there were, the world would be a very different place. Thanks again.